We're here to talk about Brazen Embers from the GM side this time. We will start going through a list of attributes from the game that is important for you to know when the players go interacting with the world, and you need to call roles. So, let's begin. Influence. Influence is how your character uses their words, their presence, or their force of will to make others see through their eyes and change the perception of the world around them. Or, in other words, influence how they see and perceive things. Example, some actions you could use influence for could be persuade, intimidate, lie, placate someone, inspire someone, negotiate, and leadership. Awareness. Awareness is how your character observes the subtle changes in the world around them. Their intuition, for example, read a room to get a vibe, notice a subtle change in body language, look for a hidden trail, get a feeling if you trust someone.
Okay. Ingenuity is how your character thinks on their feet and how they can come up with plans and ideas in the heat of the moment. Ingenuity is creativity, adaptability, problem solving, more often than on an out of a box situation or unorthodox way. Let's say, as an example, you may try to stop a fire with a sound based weapon. You're improvising a poem to impress someone, would be another example of that. Endurance is a self-explained one. Is how your character can resist discomfort and pain and push through their limits, physical and mental. Pushing through pain as you run with a broken bone, keeping your panic at bay when an unpleasant sound gave you a traumatic flashback, are just a couple examples of what endurance can do to you.
Nice. Precision is, like the word says, accuracy, dexterity when handling delicate things or finicky actions. It could be aiming, tossing, lockpicking, handling intricate tools, fine hand coordination, motor skills. Salvaging is the ability to interact with the environment around you with knowledge and resourcefulness. Salvaging gives you the ability to make the best use of the environment around you. For example, you can use salvaging to find and gather resources or supplies in the wild. You can repair or repurpose items and gear by using discarded objects. You can tinker in an experimental way, or use the environment to hide or use set a trap.
Well, might is your physical strength and ability to perform raw feats of strength and athleticism, like breaking a door, lifting heavy objects, and holding someone down, pinning them down. Uh, Judgment. Judgment is your logical reasoning and book smarts, ability to remember different information, judge different people, calculate risks, and finding optional solutions to with the information that you have. Some examples would be making tactical decisions, negotiating, tinkering or studying objects, materials and schematics, connecting the dots about different pieces of information you received in the past, and how you can apply that information in the moment. Remember as well that players usually only roll 2d6 on any roll, but if they're proficient in that skill, let's say might, they roll an additional d6 and add those together. Proficiency are based on the character classes, and you get a third one depending on what specialization you want to take when creating your character. You get more options as you level up as well.
Like Leo mentioned before, if you're rolling with 3d6, you have proficiency in the situation at hand, but you or your party members can use one of their skills to give up to 2d6 extra dice for the situation at hand. They can also help you, if it makes sense in the fiction, give you one extra d6. So there you go, that's why you have 6d6. And there's also a few other abilities that different characters have that can give you additional rerolls. Remember that in Brazen Embers, if you help the party member in your roll and you fail, both of you suffer whatever consequence comes as a result of this failure. Just to recap, a player using all they have for a roll, if they have the relevant attribute to the situation, should look like 6d6 with a few rerolls.
A few of the recommended strength levels would be common from 5 to 9, moderate from 10 to 15, brutal from 16 to 20, and formidable for 21 and above. If the players miss the strength level by a small margin, you can work success with consequences. So if you're trying to cross a bridge, you may lose some supply. Collapsing bridge, you may lose some supplies while doing that, but you still manage to cross the bridge. You can work with things like that.
Yeah. As the GM, if the circumstances in the fiction make sense, you can call for advantage or disadvantage from the player. Let the players know that as soon as possible, preferably before they roll. In Brazen Embers, advantage or disadvantage can be a plus 1d6 or minus 1d6. Of course, not exceeding the total cap or going below the 2d6 base. Or a reroll. As a GM, remember to always explain what the rationale is for giving advantage or disadvantage. Maybe it's a backstory reason, or maybe it's a result of an earlier roll. Maybe it's an outstanding moment the player had earlier that is paying off. Let them know they are being rewarded so other players can be on the lookout for their own cool moments to get these rewards.
Conducting Brazen Embers, you're constantly engaged with your players with what's happening in the scene around you in that moment. One of the most important ways you can do it is giving out damage. Damage is not the same in Brazen Embers as other TTRPGs. You have 4 different damage types. You have injury, that would be physical damage a character can receive, sanity, that would be mental or emotional, psychological damage. Reserves is your funds, your supplies, your material goods or objects that they possess. You can get damage on that way as well. And lastly, notoriety, which is the reputation or credibility. As a GM, you're constantly evaluating what situations translates to what types of damage the characters are taking. And depending on the situation, they can take diverse damage in very diverse ways. Some classes are better at resisting some types of damage than others, so you gotta keep a lookout.
Yeah. When a character loses hope in the end of a scene, as a GM, you can ask them what about the situation made the character falter. Even if none of the other characters canonically know about that, that mix of exteriority and interiority when experienced a character gives a lot of depth, especially if you are an emotionally charged act. If the flashback style would not work as well for you, you can do an immediate short visceral reaction from the character as soon as they lose hope in the immediate middle of the action. Just work something out with your table that works for everyone.
Remember that when a character is on their last 2 points of hope, they receive additional debuffs. First, they receive paranoid. And if they go down another point of hope, they are on their last leg, they become disillusioned. Those can really screw you over. Paranoid, your character cannot be helped and they cannot help their allies. So they become more in
Withdrawn.
withdrawn. Thank you. If you're disillusioned, uh, before using any active skill, you have to roll a d6. And if you roll 1 on that d6, you cannot use that skill for that situation. Fortunately, you don't have to expend any of resources when doing so.
Lastly, let's go over how you can regain class resources. That's the thing that lets players use their skills. Every class has a different resource, or at least, a resource with a different name, and they serve the same function, but they regain them differently throughout the day if they do something intrinsic to that class or to the character. I do give a few examples, but like many things in a TTRPG, it will be up to the GM to rule what moments count and are worth regaining class resources. And merchant, for example, they can regain their class resources favor if they expand the network of contacts or make a good sale or like a bartering deal. An inventor, however, doing those things wouldn't do much for them, but tinkering with machines or doing experiments and letting their mind cook ideas will give them like some spark back, which it's their class resource. So yeah, that's what we have for you today for Brazen Embers, and yeah, we're gonna be up on Kickstarter soon. So remember to like, follow us, and subscribe to our mailing list.
Yeah, thank you so much. You guys have a good one.
Thank you.